This is a read of The Midwife's Apprentice, Chapter 10, called The Boy. After this, when the midwife was summoned to attend a mother, Alice took to stealing her way inside the woman's cottage, hiding in the shadows so as not to be noticed, watching closely to see what the midwife did and how and why. She took and stored in her brain and her heart what she heard the midwife say and do about babies and birthing and easing pain. She discovered that an eggshell full of the juice of leeks and mallows will make the labor quicker, that rubbing the mother's belly with the blood of a crane can make it easier, that birthwort roots and flowers can strengthen contractions in a reluctant mother, and that if all else fails, the midwife can shout into the birth passage, "Infant, come forward. Christ calls you to the light." She found that mouse ear and willow can help stop bleeding, and that a tea of anise and dill and bitter milkwort will help when milk will not come. She learned that newborn infants are readily seized by fairies unless salt is put in their mouth and their cradles, that a baby born in the morning will never see ghosts, and that a son born after the death of his father will be able to cure fevers. Alice thought the midwife had more skills with herbs and syrups and spells than Will Russet, but Will delivered babies just as well and was much kinder to the mother. Alice thought that if she needed a midwife, she would rather someone like Will than Jane Sharp for all her spells and syrups. Early one cold November day, before the pale, watery sun could light up the morning sky, Alice left the midwife's cottage and hurried to the cowshed to see Tansy's twins, now called Baldrith and Bilfrith, after the stately local hermits, and give them some parsnip tops to munch. There, huddled as close to Tansy as her calves, lay a sleeping boy, blue in his lips, frost in his hair, and tears frozen on his thin, dirty cheeks. Her coming startled him awake, and he jumped to his feet. "I be leaving, mistress," he said. "I took nothing. I hurt nothing. I be going." Alice grabbed his arm. "Wait, boy. I mean you no harm. Who are you?" "I be nobody, mistress. I go." "Everybody is somebody, and so are you. Want some breakfast?" From the sleeve of her gown, Alice pulled the parsnip tops meant for the cows and some cheese she had saved for the cat and fed instead the hungry boy. She watched him as he ate. 6 he was, maybe a little older, for all he was so small and thin. He looked a little like her, now she thought about it. A sudden pleasure inside her warmed her hands as she reached out to smooth the boy's hair. "Next time you be much warmer nestled in the dung heap these cold days," she told him. "I know." He finished the cheese and looked up at her. "Bread?" "Bread. I'll go fetch some. You stay here." Alice ran for the cottage, found a bit of bread she had hidden away for the cat, ignored the midwife's questions and demands, and started back for the cowshed. The boy was running down the road toward her, pursued by several much bigger boys shouting and threatening with their pitchforks and rakes. "Beggar! Thief! Ragtag!" they shouted as the boy crashed right into Alice and sent them both sprawling to the ground. "Have off, Dick," said Alice, "or I be telling your granny who drank that ale she hid for herself. And you, Jack Snaggletooth, I still have that bottle of rat's blood." As the boys backed away, Alice stood brushing the mud from her skirt with one hand and holding on to the boy with the other. "Have off, I said." she repeated, moving toward them. Corpus bones beetle. We were, but wagging him, since you are no sport no more. And the boys moved off to torment someone else until they were found, slapped, and sent to work. When Alice and the boy, who said his name was Runt, got back to the midwife's cottage, Jane was out seeking to Kate, the weaver's daughter, who was having trouble with her milk. Alice brought the boy into the yard, cleaned his face with her skirt, and combed the straw from his hair, all the while telling him that Runt might be a good name for a small pig, but never for such a likely-looking boy as he, and that she would help him find a place to sleep and something regular to eat. But he would have to have a real name, for she was not taking anywhere anyone named Runt. What's your name? The boy asked. Alice, said Alice. Then I be Alice too. You cannot be Alice, for it is a name for a girl. What then is the king's name? Alice did not know. So she hid the boy in the chicken house and went about the village, asking folks what was the king's name. Longshanks, said the baker. Hammer, said Thomas at the bridge. The devil hisself, said Brian Taylor, who was a Scot, and so had reason to feel that way. Just the king is all, said several. Edward, said the bailiff. The king's name is Edward. Edward, said Alice to the boy. Then Alice is my name, said Edward, who used to be called Runt. Alice nodded. She could see the midwife coming in the distance, so Alice spat on her fingers and rubbed a bit of stubborn dirt off of Edward's cheek. Go, she said, up that road to the manor. They are hiring boys to help with the threshing. Tell them Jane the midwife sent you, and bid them remember the good job she did delivering Lady Agnes's stubborn son. Now go. Edward shook his head and grabbed a piece of her skirt in his fist, but she put him off. So he straightened his tunic and went, looking back once to throw a brave, shaky grin at Alice. The returning midwife, angry at Alice for ignoring her earlier, set her to do all the least pleasant chores, roasting frogs' livers, boiling snails into jelly, stripping the thorns from dogberry roses. But Alice minded little, for she thought not of her tasks, but of Edward's face and the abundance of bread and cheese up at the manor, looking for a hungry boy's belly to fill.